Stuck with it, and Jimmy got it. Good
So,
job.
okay, well, last time when we left our heroes, I had, let's see, I better share this with the Zoom people. Try not to talk and think at the same time.
Lois texted and said she can't hear everything.
Okay.
Can she hear me? Because it says that she can hear me, not that we can believe what it says. Testing 1, 2, you should be hearing me loud and clear.
Tell him to come on and put a thumbs up.
Yeah, maybe put your video on to
Oh,
let
they
me
can't
know if
hear
you're,
us. Yeah. No, they can't hear us to say.
according to what I've got there, they should be hearing. Can you hear it? Yes, okay, she is hearing it. Okay. Good grief. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Zoom, share. Did I share the right thing? I don't think I did. This is what I want to share. Okay. All right. I'm going to be disheveled as we get started here, so I guess we just,
Don't look disheveled.
we'll just go through it a little hodgepodge kind of a way here, because this is, what I did is I've got all of my photos stored on the hard drive here. I only picked out certain ones for the PowerPoint presentation when I first made it, but we can get a little more in-depth on some of these things. So, but this is in less planned-out order.
What are the tables for along the bottom wall right
I'm
there?
not sure what the tables are for, but you see the divider between the women's side and the men's side. This is the western wall.
Oh, how tall is that?
Gosh, yeah, that's gotta be 70 feet at least, maybe more.
You're talking about the wall?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was up on the walkway that takes you into the interiors with that. This is a panoramic view of our group on the Temple Mount there. And this is the Al-Aqsa Mosque that stands on the south side of the Temple Mount now. So, and then this is the view turning around from that, going up to the Dome of the Rock. And so we did get to go and approach there. So it's pretty stunning. But we wouldn't be allowed inside because we're not Muslim.
Infidel.
Do you know when that was built?
Google machine, somebody, when the Dome of the Rock, when was it built?
Dome of the Rock?
Yeah. And different views around from the city. This is that Dominus Flevit, the church where it's Jesus wept. It's not really a church, it's a little chapel.
Wow,
The teardrop shape with the tear cups on the corners.
wow.
So you can see that from where we were through the haze.
Oh, yeah.
So
That thing on the right-hand side looked like a barbecue.
barbecue
grill.
grill, it might be for all I know.
Does.
So now this is the west, I'm sorry, the what's called the Mercy Gate or the Golden Gate. It's the east gate, and I'm just going to show the people here this quickly. People at home aren't seeing this, but this big thick red line is the path of Jesus riding the donkey into Jerusalem from, past Bethphage down this direction through the Kidron Valley and through what's called the Golden Gate or the East Gate. The Golden Gate has been, and it has nothing to do with San Francisco, this has been closed from the outside since the 15th century. It was closed in the year 800 when the Muslims took over, and then when it was liberated, it was opened, and then when the Ottomans took over, it was closed again. The ostensible reason is that legend has it that when the Messiah comes, then he will come through that gate. And so they walled it off as if that's going to stop anything.
Right.
So
Okay, well, I have some information. The original dome collapsed in 1015 and was rebuilt in 1022 and 23. And then it outside appearance changed significantly during the early Ottoman period with the brightly colored mosaic tile.
Yeah, the Ottoman Empire, yeah.
Wow.
That's when the gate was closed
And
off,
then,
finally.
Notably with, and again, the modern period, notably with the addition of the gold-plated roof was in 1959 to 61, and again in 1993.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah,
Recent.
so that's been there, well, it was, if you go back more, you're back into 516 BC.
So
Wow.
this is gonna be, you see where the gate is. So it's to the northeast of the actual temple, right there in the center. So we're close to the eastern wall, and we're at that sealed off gate. And the reason I'm showing you this is that our tour guide, Long Israeli, who fought in the War of 67, was absolutely shocked at what he saw going on down in this is on the interior portion now. The outside you can see is all stoned in. You see the arched doorways, but this is from the inside that we're seeing it. And he couldn't believe that he saw activity going on down below. They were cleaning up, putting rugs in and stuff like that, because this has been sealed off. There's a gate, just a gate for the stairs going down, and this portion was sealed off in 2003. I had this on my internet all ready to go for you, but when I rebooted my computer, I've got to go back and find everything, so I'll do it from memory the best I can. The Jordanian-run council that is part of the status quo agreement for the temple, they represent the Waqf, W-A-Q-F, and that's the kind of council that wants to dictate what goes on at the temple and the Temple Mount. And in the early 2000s, on the East Gate, the Golden Gate, the Mercy Gate, it's all the same, Israel said they're doing excavations down there and they're destroying evidence of the ancient Israeli presence there. So Israel stepped in and said, enough. And so they sealed off the area, not in a huge way, it's just a locked gate that you could hop over even at the top. But it had been sealed off when I was there for 16 years. So when he took us there and he's seeing, and if you go back, I had the article, it's from March 6th, and we were there February 19th, talking about, this is 2019, a big controversy between the Israeli leadership and the Waqf, I don't know how to pronounce it, and the Waqf had just unilaterally decided, we're going to open this for Muslim worship.
Oh, gee.
And so there was tension.
Yeah.
And here we were standing there looking at the whole thing happening live, real time,
I
so.
was going to say, those look like prayer blankets.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happens inside there. We didn't get to go down, of course. So this is our group watching, but it was really interesting to see how alarmed our tour guide was.
Yeah.
Because that had been status quo, and for 16 years that had been sealed off, and then, so this is at the Dung Gate, they call it, on the south. I'm sorry this isn't in any great order. And then is this the one of, I think this is the chapel of Mary's Nativity, if I'm not mistaken. It's where they believe Mary was born. Again, historically, you can't say, but
Yeah.
people leave their prayers. How many of you know what the Immaculate Conception means?
That's the conception, just guessing, that's the conception of Jesus by the angel or whatever.
That's what you would think.
That's what you would think.
It's not.
Okay.
Really?
No. The Immaculate Conception is an ancient understanding. Again, through the birth of Jesus, they had the Nicene Creed to decide Jesus is fully human and fully divine. We can't explain it, but there's the parameters. Can't go outside and say he's only human or he's only divine. He's both. How did that happen? And so the whole idea is that Jesus being a human could pay the debt for sin. Only a human could pay the debt for sin, the second Adam. But no human that was sinful could pay the debt, because being sinful, no other human could accomplish it. The fact that Jesus was human and divine, the fact that he was divine, the understanding is he's got the bank account to cover the check to pay the price as both divine and human. So that whole doctrine is really precious. And they had to defend that. And the doctrine of sin in the history of it, and I don't know how the Roman Catholics treat it today, and the Orthodox, but the idea was that that we are born into sin, that we are sinful when we are born. Yeah, well, original sin, we think of, eating the apple, but original sin, yes. That, I mean, immediately, there's nothing. There's even a doctrine called, and I think this is great, there's a doctrine that we hold called total depravity. Well, that doesn't sound good. So, and people get upset when they hear that because they think what we're trying to say is that all humanity is worthless, totally depraved, nothing good about it. That's not what total depravity means. Total depravity means that humanity, which is created good, is tainted by sin from the beginning, original sin. Tainted, and every aspect of humanity is tainted. Every aspect of good created humanity is tainted by sin. The way that was described to me in the most useful way for me was when I was in seminary, and they would say, okay, so when you want to give a sermon and represent God, thus says the Lord, what do? Well, you pray, you get nervous, you read, you study, you pick the passage, you make sure that the context is correct, you pick the correct verses, you look at the original languages, you translate, you pray, you work, they said 20 hours a week is what they wanted you to do. You read the commentaries, you look at the whole context of the Bible, you look at the church's history of interpretation, you pray some more, you write your outline, then you write your manuscript, then you practice it, then you pray some more, then you go back and you study. I mean, it's just like, I mean, and when you're in seminary, you're really feeling like, okay, this is, and then, so you do all this, and then on Sunday morning, you pray again, and you get up there, and you give the sermon. And your first thought afterwards is, I hope they liked me. Total depravity. Even our best efforts have some taint to them. That I can go with. It doesn't mean there was nothing good about that or me, but it means that, unfortunately, sin infects. And so now when I think, God's revealing to us not only Scripture and godly things, which he gave us first, thankfully. The stuff that was most important came through Genesis and all that. Who's God, who are we, and what's the point of all this? And so we have Scripture for that. Well, now we have this burst of, now we're learning cellular biology and DNA and nuclear fission and all this stuff that I believe is also God revealed. And we think, well, gosh, the progress. Jonas Salk, polio vaccine, the greatest thing in the world. That's wonderful. But with progress, every aspect of humanity is tainted. And so all of this stuff, which is good progress, we have to say, wait a minute, what are our ethics in this? We have the power of harnessing nuclear fission. So can we have clean power for the whole world? That'd be wonderful. Or can we blow up everything? That's the dilemma. And so I think, God, don't give us more revelation than we can handle, because we're not ethically ready to, for genetic engineering and cloning and all that kind of stuff. And so that's the dilemma of humanity. With all the good progress that we pursue, think of AI. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do with AI? And so we have a healthy fear because we know total depravity. But if you say that to people who think, you Christians think the humans are just, garbage. No, that's not anywhere near what that doctrine means. Why did I get off on that track? Because not only did Jesus have to be born pure, from a virgin, divine and human, but it wasn't enough to protect that doctrine until they said, and Mary was conceived in the Immaculate Conception. Mary was specially conceived. That's the Immaculate Conception. Blew my mind when I first, I just assumed that's Jesus. But the Immaculate Conception is Mary, and the doctrine of that, whether you buy into it or not, it's a Roman Catholic type thing that I won't say whether or not they hold that today.
So was the Immaculate Conception because she was a virgin?
No, it was her parents. Yeah, she would be born into sin because of that's how humans are. So somehow in the doctrine of all this, they had to come up with an idea that Mary was somehow made even extra special. So, and the fact that she grew up and was a virgin at the time, that all follows. But she was not born into sin the way we all are because of the Immaculate Conception. It's not something Protestants hold.
Yeah,
So,
that's true, yeah.
but we've heard that phrase, Immaculate Conception, and we all just assume, well, of course, that's Jesus.
Jesus, yeah.
He was born with the Holy Spirit coming to Mary rather than the traditional way. And but no, we have to think of the church doctrine that goes to that. So
In the Catholic Church, is that why Mary is revered with such high?
well, yes, I mean the mother of the Lord, or the Theotokos, the God bearer.
Because she's the Immaculate.
Right, but just to protect that idea that Jesus was not conceived in sin in any way, they go back to Mary's conception to lay the groundwork for that. So it gets to be, you have to do some real theological gymnastics, I think, to get there.
Yeah.
But so this chapel is dedicated to Mary's Nativity, the Church of the Immaculate Conception, the Nativity of Our Lady. So there's a whole stream that follows that. So I don't know if that's interesting to you or not, but that's what this was. Okay. Somebody asked about the cypress trees.
Yeah, Italian cypresses.
Bingo, right there. These are Mediterranean cypress.
Wow. It's
There's-
so much more dense and green than I ever thought that it would be. When you had the pictures up just a few minutes ago, it looks like a lot of vegetation, beautiful, instead of arid.
Let's see. The Pool of Siloam has different locations that are disputed, but that's what this is, where it says, and Jesus said to the man who had been ill for 30 days, rise, take up your pallet and walk. There's the healings that were done here, and then there's ruins of areas that, now I told you the Palestinian Uber driver that took us around, he said, I'll take you to the Pool of Siloam, and that's where we went. So there's a disputed,
Yeah.
okay. And I'm not going to be able to narrate all these because but there's another example down below of the water type bathing areas that they had where they collected water for such things. Could be spring fed at the time, hard to say. Okay, this is the place where it commemorates where Jesus was taken before Pilate. If you see this that says flagellavit, flagellated, scourged, beaten. So that's what this commemorates, is where Jesus was taken before Pilate, and he said, he's done nothing worthy of death, have him lashed 39 times. So this is the chapel of the condemnation, they call it. Up on the wall, it's interesting, they've got a layout of the city.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the stones here, this was one of the times they said, this is one of the few times they said, we are very certain Jesus walked right here, these stones. In fact, and this is our guide's feet are the ones you see mainly there. Very typical. All of our people were sitting around listening to him. We had earpieces in and he would speak into a microphone because there's so many tour groups you can't shout.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But he was showing us the significance of these stones, and there's a close-up and you've seen something like this when we looked at Caesarea before. It's not, well, this one isn't as clear. There it is. You see where he's pointing? There's a pattern that
Oh,
he's
yeah, yeah.
pointing to, and I've
Yeah.
got a close-up of it. And again, the Roman soldiers, to pass the time, would play dice-type games. And there is a pattern
Yeah.
of a carved game board. So when they, and he, there's even a name, I can go back and look, but they even know one of the names of the game, that you move your piece around, and it's to become king at some point. And they mocked Jesus as king. And again, that's one of the reasons why they said they're very certain that this is an authentic site. So you can imagine, and there's an actual name for that game, and you can read about it. So some of these things were considered deeply authentic. Okay, this then is on the Via Doloroso, the way of pain, the way to the cross. And this one you can see in the center there, I don't know if I have a close-up, it's Jesus going to be carrying the cross at some point. Yeah. So I think this is when the soldier, this may be when the soldier was making Joseph of Arimathea carry it. I don't remember. So, but this is all on the Via Dolorosa, the Sanctuary of the Flagellation. You see Via Dolorosa up there. And people will do the pilgrimage through the various stations on the Via Dolorosa. They'll do that at any time of the year, but especially in the season leading up to Easter. There's a great crowd. The architecture and how they build things into old things is just insane. That arch goes into something that I don't know how they make it work. And he was telling us the significance of this. Okay, you saw our lunch, so I won't do that. Certain artifacts are preserved, and so you can see this one's got writing inside. I have a close-up of that. Something Veronica, I can't remember the significance. I was going to look that up. So this is one of the original artifacts that's along the way. More on the Via Doloroso. I've got a better picture of this. Yeah, this is again Jesus bearing the cross, and he falls, and so the cross is transferred to the Joseph that was supposed to carry it. And this is a chapel then that we had worship in at that time, in that area on the Via Dolorosa. And where they can, they preserve the oldest rocks, and they build the rest of the floor around it. So I tried to get photos of the things that they said were authentically ancient. But some of it, and again, when you walk by, you see the people will throw their prayers down. So it's not just litter. Although there's plenty of places where you'd think, oh my gosh, they can't. The city has
What
its.
is that room?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. There's going to be too many of those pictures that I don't.
Yeah.
Do we assume that the buildings on the Via Dolorosa were there as Jesus went down, or it was all open and that's just a pathway?
Yeah, all of that from earthquakes and conquering and everything. The buildings, no. They were all redone at different periods. Only a precious few stones or pavings have been uncovered and are looked at as dating back to that period authentically. But most of the way that it looks would not be exactly like Jesus saw it. So the marketplaces are woven inside there as you're walking around. So it's a functioning city with the ancient and the modern. And then they will preserve the artifacts of different places behind glass, or so that it's protected from the people. This stone is, is typical of the kinds of stones that when they have a piece that they think is an artifact from what's being commemorated at that chapel. And I'm not going to venture a guess because I don't want to get it wrong here. This would be a depiction of Moses was not allowed into the Promised Land. And so this is a depiction, I believe, of when Moses, just before he died, was in the mountains looking over the Jordan and said, you know, you can see it, but you won't go there. Joshua had to lead the people. I believe that's what this is. This goes back to the, let me see if I'm in the right place here. I'm sorry. If this drives you nuts, tell me to stop. Okay, here's a chapel that commemorates the sacrifice of Isaac, and the angel appearing, and then there'll be the ram in the bush.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't this amazing?
That is
The
amazing.
intricacies. So, the more, for example, this came in a different period, this colorful piece, but they preserved what they could of a more ancient. Again, it doesn't go back to the time of Jesus,
Right.
but this was an icon of Jesus that predates the colorful stuff around it. And so they try to preserve what they can of it.
Is that painted or inlaid?
Inlaid, I believe. Yeah, it's all inlaid. It's amazing. So here again is the sacrifice of Isaac from a different angle. There's the ram in the bush. So a black preacher once he impressed upon me when I was talking about when things seem like they're going to go the wrong way, and then at the last minute, and the preacher talked to me about faith and his phrase was, God always has a ram in the bush.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going fast through this because I'm wanting to get us to the Garden of Gethsemane and then to the tombs in that cemetery, and I'm hoping I can do that justice. That's what I'm really going to. That's where the Bible verses are going to come in. This is the mural that you've already seen, but I forgot that there were 3 pieces of that mural. This is Jesus being taken down from the cross, and then to the left is the stone and then further on is put into the tomb. That's all in one mural. I showed you the 2 pieces on the left, but you never saw the one on the right where he's depicted as being taken down from the cross. So there's the other side that you have seen. The middle is where he's being anointed for burial and then carried into the tomb. Oh gosh, I wish I could narrate some of this stuff for you. I'm going to skip past that. Sorry. I want to get to the... Okay, we are in the tombs. Oh my goodness. And I had this all researched. I'm going to have to do as much of it from memory as I can. In fact, let's see. I'm going to do a search here real quick to see if I can get it. This is called the Valley of Jehoshaphat. And I had a bunch of scriptures that came up that were really good for us to, and I don't know if I'm going to find the article now because I had to close it down and it may not be in my history. So much for the preparation I did last night.
Aw, sad.
All right, I'm going to try it.
There it is.
Well, there's the history.
Oh, that's the one you just did.
Yeah, that's the one I just did. I've got to go to last night. King David's tomb, Temple Mount. The Church of Mary Magdalene is interesting. Yeah, I kept seeing this in one of my photos, and I thought, what is that church? I thought, is that a Russian Orthodox or something? This is the Church of Mary Magdalene. So that's worth a glance. Let me go here again. Every time I do this, I have to go through the whole rigmarole. Good grief, was there more earlier? See, I'm searching football stuff while I'm doing this too. Golden Gate Temple controversy, there's one. Okay. There's the article. Okay, I can find that. So I'll circle back to, why isn't it opening? Okay, so this, if you want to look, but
Yes.
March 5th, 2019, we were there at the end of February. And this is the article that talks, there's the gate. So it was locked with a padlock. Now, of course, you could hop right over that, but for 16 years, that was off limits. And they broke it, and they went down and started making it, this is the Muslim group that's insisted that they were going to do that. And then there's a whole article on Jordan's Royal Committee for Jerusalem Affairs, which oversees the Waqf, condemned Israel for saying, they had to close it down. So the back and forth was, and I don't know to this day how it's been resolved.
That wasn't the building that was walled off inside?
Yes,
So
it's,
where
well,
did
the
you
walled
wanna get
off is on
into?
the outside. The Golden Gate is stoned off from the outside. On the inside is where we were, and
You
we
could still
overlooking, you
yeah.
could still go down into that area. You couldn't get out of the wall because of the stones, but there's some, in the gate, there's areas down there, and some excavation was happening, and so that's the controversy of that piece. All right. I'm going to make one more attempt for this Valley of Jehoshaphat thing, because I found some Bible verses that I thought would, look at all that Temple Mount, good Lord. Well, at least it shows you I did some research. Church of Mary Magdalene, Church of All Nations, King David's Tomb. I was searching for what these things were because I didn't know their names, and I found it.
Why did they choose to name a church after
Mary
Mary Magdalene?
Magdalene. Okay, well, let's look at that a little bit. I'm going to have to share this with the people at home, so give me a moment. Let's see, share. Okay, so hopefully they're seeing that now.
Too long ago, I remember.
Okay, the Church of Mary Magdalene, and, oh, shoot, I don't want that, I want this. But I want the actual website. It's not going to give it to me. Okay, Church of Mary Magdalene, overview, come on, give me the website. Boy, I thought I'd be able to just click on all these because I had every tab open. It's not going to give it to me.
Does it? Well, it looks.
All right, there we go. Okay, let's look a little bit about the Church of Mary Magdalene. It is located on the Mount of Olives, so it's across the Kidron Valley from the Garden of, or from near the Garden of Gethsemane, but not on top of it. The church dedicated to Mary Magdalene is part of the Convent of St. Mary Magdalene, an order established in 1936 by an English convert, and since the 1920s has been under the jurisdiction of the Russian Orthodox Church. It's an independent ecclesiastical entity until 2007 and part of the Moscow-based Russian Orthodox Church since then. Let's see. Church was built in 1888 by Tsar Alexander III to honor their mother, Empress Maria Alexandrovna. Constructed to David Grimm's design, whatever that is. Gilded onion domes. It's dedicated to Mary Magdalene, the disciple of Jesus, the apostle of the apostles. According to the 16th chapter of the Gospel of Mark, Mary Magdalene was the first to see Christ after his resurrection. That's how Mark records it. She is usually considered a crucial and important disciple of Jesus, along with Mary of Bethany, who some believe to be the same person. Okay. All right, so that's a little bit about that. And did I do the Rock Ridge? So we did that, and then I'm going to try the Valley of Jehoshaphat one more time.
Yeah, just don't click on Wikipedia, slide down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Maybe there's more.
You may be right. Which one did I go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's,
Is it Holy Land site or Jehoshaphat? I think it might have been one of these. This looks promising. Fill it in, fill it in.
Yeah, nothing there.
Okay. All right. This is mentioned in the book of Joel, and I'm going to make you look it up because it's really hard to find. Joel is a minor prophet, which means a shorter prophet, doesn't mean lesser importance. And the story goes that on April 1st of, it would have been 1985, I was in college, and it was a Sunday, and we were, right. We were going to, in the New Visions touring group that I was in, we used to go sing and lead church services, and we had a company that did this stuff in our college. And the campus minister who founded that group, Barb Isaacs, Reverend Barb Isaacs, United Methodist, the college was United Methodist. We went to this church, and there's 12 of us, and we're all ready to start. And we said, okay, to lead our prayer and devotion before we go in, Reverend Barb, would you read from Joel? Would you read from Joel? And we gave her a verse.
Hosea.
And we stood there as she was flipping around, trying to find Joel, And we were snickering and snickering and snickering because one of our mischievous people had realized Joel has like one page, and he removed it from the Bible. That was our April Fool's joke.
actually, there's several pages.
Well, okay, it's something like whatever. Yeah, it was so short. Whatever page it was, maybe he removed a couple, but.
That's the desecration of the
Well, I'll tell you what, my Bible quits at Joel 3. It doesn't go to Joel 4.
Okay. I will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, where I will contend with them, my very own people Israel, which they scattered among the nations, for they divided my land among themselves. And in this area is the church of all nations that we saw. I thought there was a whole page of this stuff. It's not there.
That's a heck of a no when they send you to a Bible
Yeah. verse that
chapter that's
doesn't
not there.
exist. 3, yeah, that's all we have.
Yeah.
And they said 4.
This isn't the one.
Remember the Catholic Bible's different? Maybe it's
That
not
could
Catholic
be,
Bible.
that could be.
Or maybe the Catholic Bible has different.
Yeah.
Look at you guys, when I opened this to Joel, the Bible is good for you.
What's it say?
It just says the Bible is good for you. And this was in there.
On Joel?
Yeah, well, it fell out when I went to Joel, so.
Is it?
Oh, I have it in 3.
Joel 3:14.
Yeah. Actually, it's first mentioned in Joel 2, in 3, verse 2. I'll gather the armies of the world into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
Okay, I may have to do as much of this from memory as I can then, because I thought I had the Bible verses, but I'll go back to it. So, okay, let's get back to sharing those pictures. And
You were, yeah.
that one. Okay, so, all right, so here's a panoramic view, and you see the tour buses. In fact, when I search Google Earth, the tour buses must be going constantly because it's,
They show up.
yeah, even modern times, the tour buses are always going through there.
See, we're so lucky that we're not on a tour bus, we're sitting right here.
Yeah.
And all the things you're showing us are things that probably nobody in this room have seen, so.
That's right.
Only Mickey.
Instead of saying
Not
you're
on
sorry,
today.
say this is
Mickey is
another
sick.
one. You know, it's just so
Mickey is sick again.
special to see.
Oh, I'm gonna try one more. Because I can't,
So where did the phrase jump in Jehoshaphat come from?
Read that.
Okay, this'll help. Okay, this'll tell us more. All right, so now what you're looking at here is the tomb of Zechariah. And the people at home are seeing my other picture, but that's fine. That's the thing that looks like it has a pyramid on the top is called the tomb of Zechariah. It's an ancient stone monument considered by Jewish tradition to be the tomb of Zechariah ben Jehoiada. It's a few meters from the tomb of Absalom. Does anyone know who Absalom
That
is?
was one of David's sons.
One of David's sons who was rebellious. And the tomb of Bnei Hazir. And that was the other piece. So the sons of Hazir are said here in that, and I'll go back to that other picture soon, but I want to read this. So the one with the couple of pillars in the middle for the people at home is the tomb of Bnei Hazir, the family of that. And then there's another tomb I'll show you shortly that's called the tomb of Absalom, not because they believe he's buried there, but they believe that before his death, he erected a monument to himself. Okay. All right, it didn't give me the reference I wanted, but okay. Well, at least I can tell you what it is. We'll go back to the pictures now. Okay. So the tomb of Zechariah with the pyramid, the Ben Hazir here, and then over further, one of my other pictures might have it.
Is it that little teeny tiny thing clue to the
Yeah,
right?
it's hidden over here.
Oh, okay.
In this tree, and I'll get you a better picture of it, is what's called the tomb of Absalom. I'll get you a better picture of it. But I want you to note that these are all, this is a cemetery. So there are people throughout the centuries buried around here. This is an ancient cemetery with these ancient formations, but they've also used it in more
So could that
modern times.
maybe the origin of the first stone markers where a person is recognizing himself? Because like the Egyptians, they were inside the, King of Kings. Or the
Yeah,
pyramids.
I don't know if that's the first, or if it had been,
That's interesting.
it's a copied from another culture to make a stone marker. It's interesting because these were not, you had to be a wealthy family to have a tomb that was dedicated, and they didn't do inscriptions generally. Again, they would put the body in and then come back a year later and store the bones in the ossuary. So it was meant to be reused and reused. So you don't see the markings on the tombs like you would in more modern times. So there's the tomb of Ben Hazir. Boy, I would love to get in there and climb up whatever that is. There's the tomb of Zechariah. All right, this is the base of the tomb of Absalom under that tree. And I'll get to another picture. There's the Church of All Nations as I'm looking at it. And just up here is that Church of Mary Magdalene on the upper right. You can just barely see it. There is a good picture of the tomb of Absalom. And it is designed after an ancient cooking pot, a Byzantine cooking pot.
Yes, it is.
No, it looks like a game piece.
The pawn or
I'm
something.
sorry.
Yes, it's, yeah.
What did you say it was like?
Like a pawn in a chess set.
Chess piece.
Oh, pawn too, yeah.
Pawns.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a better picture of the Church of All Nations and the Church of Mary Magdalene up there that I couldn't figure out for the life of me until yesterday what that was. And the area where the tour buses go, and the ancient walls, not that go back to the time of Jesus. This may be that, in fact, this looks like the other side of the gate that we were talking about.
Yeah.
This is the Golden Gate.
Right.
That you can see the arches where it was open at one point, but it was stoned off by the Ottomans and hasn't been opened since, as a way of hedging for the Messiah to be able to come through there again. So there's a sign you don't see every day.
Yeah.
That's right.
And now we're back to the Mount of Olives, not the garden yet. There's certain places, this was before, but look at some of these gnarled old trees. And the newer shoots that come out of them are just fascinating. And okay, now this talks about the Garden of Gethsemane. Croatians, Paul, Anthony, and James, Christians from the Sarajevo Knights of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem, in the year of our Lord 1681, purchased the Garden of Gethsemane and donated it to the Franciscans. And they are the trustees of it to this day. All right, so it's just fascinating. And yes, I wanted to believe that these were the original trees, but they almost certainly weren't. Yeah, they're certainly 1,000-year-old trees, that's for sure. And then this jumps into the Church of All Nations. You've seen that. There's the rock of agony where Jesus prayed, "Let the cup pass." There's a better picture of it. I'm sorry it skips around. We'll go back to the garden. Here's a good example of
Bless you.
when they find an ancient, like a floor or something like that, they put a glass covering around the original, and then they replicated it around so that when you're walking through, it looks somewhat like that because they did have part of the original. So this is just a small section of original, and you can see they copied it beautifully. So we got to see some things that were amazingly authentic in that way. Okay, Garden of Gethsemane. Here's where the soldiers are coming to arrest Jesus. Judas betrays him with a kiss. If you can see in the center there. And then you've seen that, the symbol of the United States. This, to me, was my favorite tree of the whole bunch because I got to touch it. You see, it's protected with it, but I got to stick my finger through. There were other trees you could go up and touch, I'm sure, but that I just thought that one to me looked like, oh my gosh. Yeah, right.
Tainted.
And then the commemoration, Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but what thou will. Now, I don't know, this, you'd think, okay, like the cactus, the saguaros, did the birds come and make their nests in there? I don't know that this has anything to do with birds or bugs. This may just be the way they naturally age. I'm not sure. Yes, they are holy trees. Here's a fun one. The tree was getting so top heavy that they built a rock stand to keep it from collapsing. Yeah, there's a close-up of it. Yeah. Amazing how over the years it's grown to fit right in there. Just beautiful. The root structure and all of this is just, I love it.
Amazing, yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna, this talks about the Franciscans, who are the keepers of the garden. And you see it's all fenced in around. But the actual main part of the garden itself has a taller stone wall around it, and you'll see that later. There's different things that still commemorate where Jesus prayed, "Let this cup pass." There's coming up a very freaky picture that I looked at this and said, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And it's coming up soon. This is before we entered the gate to the Garden of Gethsemane. This was on the outside Mount of Olives. And we were passing by, where is it? There.
Bones.
I thought, is this really the bones that they're just there? And sure enough,
Really?
They are. Really?
yeah. And I don't know the significance, it wasn't marked, and they didn't point it out, I looked at, I thought, wait a minute. I had my camera going crazy there, so,
This is the guy
but-
that left the tour.
yeah,
The catacombs in Rome have bones visible when you.
yes, okay, so, all right, now we're inside the actual stone wall garden. There's a wonderful panorama view of it.
Do you see the cypresses in the background?
Yes, yeah,
That is
yeah.
really is.
Yeah, there's much more variety to the different plant life and foliage than I realized. Some of the trees are just spectacular.
You had one a couple of slides back that looked like it had an eagle or a hawk or something coming out of the base of it.
So we were allowed to spend about an hour here to meditate, and you'll see pictures of my colleagues that we kind of went off on our own. Here's one,
How
you know.
did that feel, walking in the Garden of Gethsemane?
It was both breathtaking, awe-inspiring, and overwhelming because I felt like I need a long time here to let this sink in.
Yeah.
And instead, I'm snapping pictures. And,
Right.
you know, so I mean, it was so fleeting.
You needed alone time there.
It was hard for me to, you know, I wanted to preserve so much of it on camera that I probably spent too much time with that. So, this is my roommate Danny, the one who nearly drowned me and grabbed me by the throat. And I saw him like that, and here's my, as Jeff would say, this is my CDO, my obsessive compulsive disorder, but it's CDO because it should be in alphabetical order. So I wanted to get the perfect picture of Danny, so I took like, I just
Well,
kept,
when you back away, that very first one looks like he's sitting in the middle of that tree.
okay, so, but had I been smart, maybe I would have been doing what this guy did, sitting under the tree and praying.
Right.
All the golf balls that did it.
See, and that's the problem when you're trying to preserve it in picture as well as see it, because the pictures bring back the memories, but they are not as impressive as your eyes. They never, your eyes take in so much.
Well, and I bought a fancy camera for this trip, and I was experimenting with what it did, and so I was
Yeah, but you-
enthralled by some of that.
I don't know how you saw any of this because
I
you were
know.
looking through the camera the whole
Yeah.
time, but we're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, I was,
Oh, yeah, look
my
at the
CDO,
different- yeah.
I did different filters,
Yes, you
and
did. Yeah,
I want to get the perfect picture.
yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, so here's where you see I went overboard. There's a filter on there that takes the lights and makes little star glints. So it doesn't actually do
It's
that in real life,
processed, yeah.
the photo.
Yeah.
But I thought, look at that, oh, how
You see
fascinating.
all the- Yeah,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
yeah, isn't that neat? You see it, the trees?
So that's a camera effect, and I'm sorry for my
No, that's
foolishness.
okay. It's kind of neat.
Blow up and put on your wall.
Yeah.
Well, typical, God was rolling his eyes at me at the time, saying, of course, you know.
But Jennifer is smiling.
Yeah,
He should have done a give slap.
so I took,
Back in the- Did you ever watch it?
I must have been totally enamored with him, so.
Yeah. Yeah, from all angles.
Who is that person, do you know?
I don't remember his name even. Okay, but this is,
Oh,
that's the person who let us in, one of the Franciscans.
Ah.
So here's the entrance where it says private there. So that's how we got into all of that. And the wall around it is like that. And someone asked how big it is. It's at least as big as our courtyard here, maybe a little bit bigger. So
garden
the playground and all that, yeah.
That's
It's
all.
at least, well, it might be, it's at least that big, probably bigger. This walled off part, so,
Oh, the walled off part.
yes, yeah. Yeah, it's this part of it anyway. And then back to the Church of All Nations, the Church of Mary Magdalene. Now, this was at the Church of the Ascension, or the little, I shouldn't even say church, that little chapel that we went into that I knelt down and touched the rock where supposedly Jesus was taken up. Surrounding it are these walls, and there are different remains from different periods. And the remains of the Byzantine church were there. There's the actual Ascension Chapel itself. But there's some other remains there, Greek Orthodox altar, the Syrian altar in these areas. So different traditions lay claim in different periods. Armenians have their altar there. So there's another view of that rock that is supposedly where Jesus' footprint can be seen. There was Danny, there's me. I can't tell you what that is, I don't remember. More prayer notes thrown in there. This was when we sat where Jesus wept and looked at the city of Jerusalem, the bushes with the barbed wire, razor wire. So there's some, and again, here I am fiddling with my filters. That's the picture you saw. There's the close-up of the Jesus wept, the tear cups on the corners, the teardrop shape. I thought that was pretty poignant.
Yeah.
It is.
So. Just amazing to see. In fact, now, see, you can't see that gate that we were talking about earlier, because that would be further to the right. It's up on the northeast corner. This is the southeast side, the Dome of the Rock, and to the southeast. So.
What are those people doing out in the middle of the gravel?
This is that cemetery area, so they may be looking at the various markings and tombs. A lot of these are like you see with the stone covers that do have engravings for
Yeah.
a more, what we're used to. I have a video of this I'll show you sometime. I like to show it at Lent because it's the steep downward coming off the Mount of Olives, following the route that they believe Jesus followed on the donkey
On the donkey.
that had never been ridden. And sometimes when you're on slopes like these, if it's rained a little bit, it's treacherous. So it,
Were you surprised how terraced everything was?
yes, yeah, and how they, who would want to be the code inspector for Jerusalem? So this is that rock that supposedly has Jesus' footprint. To me it looks like a legend, but you can kind of see where the heel is here. So that's the lore. That's as much credence as I'll give it.
Yeah.
Okay, that must be the last of those pictures. Okay, sharing has been stopped, window closed. Time is, we've got just a little time left. Okay, I don't know if this has been a good session or not. It feels like a disaster since I lost everything I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it's all right.
And we learned about Immaculate Conception.
I will now try and see if I can recover. I wanted to do those Bible verses. I should have copied and pasted them instead of trusting they'd be there. But, all right, let's look. Jehoshaphat is mentioned several times in 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, in some of these. Let's see if I can take a second. And Chronicles. So these are the historical books. Look at all that. Mentioned once in the Gospel of Matthew. That's the only New Testament mention. Asa was the father of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat the father of Jehoram. Jehoram the father of Uzziah.
Yeah.
In the year that King Uzziah died.
Yeah.
So that's in that. Okay, when Jehoshaphat died, he was buried with his ancestors. This is 2 Chronicles 21. in the city of David. And so that Valley of Jehoshaphat, and in there, maybe that was one of the tomb of Jehoshaphat was one of those nooks and crannies that we looked into. So it wasn't a big monument like the one with the pyramid on it, or the one that was like Absalom's. It was more like a hole in the wall. That was supposedly, it's the idea where Jehoshaphat was buried. That's noted here in 2 Chronicles 21. Let me try another one. Oh, good, they're there. The sons of Hazir, that's where those pillars were. The sons, okay, let's see what it says about Hazir in 1 Chronicles 24. Okay. Eleazar's descendants were divided into 16 groups, and Ithmar's into 8. There were more family leaders among the descendants of Eleazar. 16 verses 8. All the tasks were assigned to various groups. This is the division of the priests, I should tell you. And so that's where the sons of Hazir were. This was a priestly family. I'm glad we got that detail. The tasks were assigned to the various groups by means of sacred lots. Isn't that interesting of how they used to cast lots for that? How can we decide? We got to leave it in God's hands. And they still had that idea that, okay, roll the dice. They even had that, the last mention that I know of it in Scripture was when Judas needed to be replaced.
Yes.
And the 11 disciples came down to, they wanted somebody who'd been with them from the beginning. And there was Matthias and
Yes, and yeah, I could remember.
I can't remember the other one.
I can't remember the other one.
And they got down to those two that, okay, either one would be acceptable, but we can't pick, so let's let God pick. And they cast lots, and it fell to Matthias to be the 12th.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's strange to have that as still part of the, that lingering superstition piece that. So as they cast these 24 lots, the 17th lot fell to Hazir.
Stephen was
So that would define what the priestly responsibilities were
here.
for that particular section of the priests.
Hang on.
Oh, she's going to find the other.
Well, I was looking and it
Acts.
mentioned Matthias replaces Jesus.
Acts 2, Acts.
Oh, two men. Joseph called Barsabbas,
Joseph Barsabbas.
also known as Justus, and Matthias.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so the sons of Hazir were priests, and that was a priestly family. Okay. I'll do a little preview for next time. Because now we're going to go to a totally different place outside of Jerusalem. Oh, I hate when it does that. I want to share this one, I think. Okay.
Is it okay to revisit something just real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so I can wrap my brain around it. Immaculate conception.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going against everything that I remember as a kiddo. Because when I look up what immaculate, and I'm looking up in Luke, you know, the account of how Mary, cousin became pregnant with John,
Mhm.
and it says that the Holy Spirit, and she says, when the angel came to talk to her, she said, but how is this possible? I am a virgin.
Mhm.
Right? And he said, the Spirit of the Lord will come to you and
Right.
will become
Mhm.
with child.
Yeah.
And see, that's what I always thought immaculate conception
Yeah.
was.
I grew up that way too.
Yeah, that,
So,
That
so
is-
we're saying that
yeah.
really the
No.
immaculate conception, it really was about Mary's lineage.
Yes.
Mary
And
would
she
have had
was
to
the
be
one,
human.
because she was
Yeah.
without sin.
Well, she was not born with the kind of passed down genetic human tainting that, yeah, they had to make her special in that way.
Says she was without the original sin.
Yes. That, yeah, and this is as concise as I found it. The Immaculate Conception is a Catholic
Catholic
dogma
dogma.
Yeah.
that states that Mary, the mother of Jesus, was conceived without original sin.
That's why all the babies, if you're Catholic, you have to be baptized so that it gets rid of your original sins.
Well, and the reformers in the Reformed tradition like ours said this isn't in Scripture.
No.
This is
Yeah.
totally,
No, Jesus
Yeah.
is the only one that is.
so, and again, and down here, this might be helpful. The Immaculate Conception is different from the virgin birth, which refers to the birth of Jesus. I guess that's all it's going to tell us about that. But anyway, so if you look it up, that I was shocked, like you are today.
Yeah.
I just never knew that. When Immaculate
Well, that's what-
Conception.
It's what they believe.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
don't have
It's what-
to.
Yeah,
It's so that they.
right. It's
yeah.
a long held tradition. So, okay, let me get back to. Okay, this is when we went to the site called Masada.
Uh-huh.
Masada is, as you can see, a very high point on an amazingly difficult to get to
Yeah.
high area that is difficult to scale, and of course, we rolled gondolas up to do it. You go to this very high place, and Masada was after the the Roman siege of Jerusalem. There was a group of people that fled to the southeast toward the Dead Sea, and they had a fortress at Masada where they wanted to survive the Roman conquest. And so we went to Masada and went up the gondolas to the top. So there's a handsome guy.
But how did they get
Watch
there?
that beard.
That is really high.
Jim, how did they get there before gondolas?
You know, I'm not sure because,
Very carefully.
yeah, I'm not sure how they scaled it in the original because as we go, I may just go ahead and blow through this if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So up there, they lived, it's said and now it's disputed, but some say they lived for a period of a few years. And that it took the Romans, and that's what we were told while we were there. The Romans thought they could wipe it out in a couple of weeks. But to get to them, they couldn't reach them, and they had to build a rampart all the way up. So here they had, and how did they feed themselves?
Yeah.
They actually had, there were stone compartments where the birds would fly in and nest. So they would have some birds to eat, they'd have some eggs to eat, and they had stored
Water?
grains, and they had precious little growing that they could do there. I don't know how they got their water.
Pretty barren. Vegetation.
Why did they do that so high?
Well, to protect, it was a
Yeah.
place to protect themselves, to get away from the threat of conquerors.
Yeah.
Yeah, in those days, if you, whatever natural kind of protection you could find. So here is a mosaic floor that is partially preserved. And it's very stark up there.
Yeah.
And yes, when you're looking down, it's just like, oh my goodness. Looking down to the valley below.
Looks like Tucson.
Tucson.
Tucson's pretty.
Oh, that looks like the mines at Bisbee.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
There's the ancient security cameras.
Oh, my
Okay, that's significant why.
So
The-
were they
The
there?
boulders here?
Yeah.
Yes,
Were they there to protect the specific fort area, or were they, supposed to be protecting the land below?
no, it was
No.
the people up top. You couldn't get to them because and what I was trying to find is there's an encampment outline where the Roman soldiers, because this is going to take more than a couple of weeks, they built a garrison
Yeah.
down below, and you can see the ruins of that. And then you can see the ruins of the stone ramparts. I mean, they just basically piled rocks so they could start climbing up on a ramp. And these boulders were typical of the boulders that the people on top would say, okay, the Romans are there, let's roll some boulders down on them. So that's what the significance of those are. Here's where the bird nest, they built it in such a way that the birds would come and nest there.
Nesting boxes.
Well, lucky the birds came up there, there's no vegetation for them.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised how animals can find a way to live in the,
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
you know, I remember when I first saw, and I don't know if I've never been able to find the picture, to see a flower growing out of a
I
boulder.
know,
Yeah.
I know.
So how in the world does nature find a way?
when we moved to Arizona, we had to give our dog away because you couldn't have dogs in Arizona, it was too dry and arid. We didn't have
Are
dogs
you
out there.
serious?
Well, it's not the law, you couldn't have.
Okay,
My
there's the
folks knew
Roman
nothing
garrison.
about Arizona.
So as they were looking down, they could see the soldiers camped out. Here's the outline of the Romans. That's where the soldiers
Where's the outline?
camped out.
Do that again?
Right here?
That whole area?
This whole thing. So this, you know, they'd have their tents and their, you know, structure and whatever. And so the Romans sent soldiers and they had to stay for quite a long time while they built the rampart. And they finally made it up there and did conquer them and wipe people out.
Yeah, they wiped them out.
And there's dispute now as whether that took weeks, months, or years.
And
We
who-
were told years.
Who was that at the top? Who
It was the remnant of the Jews that fled from Israel when the Romans laid siege to the city. There was a Jewish community that tried to protect themselves and preserve themselves
Yeah.
by fleeing to the wilderness and going to this fort that I don't know if it had been pre-prepared or if it was from another era or something like that. But it,
Is there any historical count of how many people were actually saved by going up there?
None, they got them all in the end.
well, they all were wiped out
Yeah.
eventually. But for the time that they were up there, I don't know if it was hundreds of people that were up there or we can look it up. We can
They
find
don't
one.
want them pretty bad.
But to me, being able to, every day, you can look down and see the soldiers that want to come and get you. So,
Yeah,
but
their only
the-
protection was the height, they had nothing else.
but they had, you know, dwelling places and it was pretty elaborate up there,
That'd be more
so.
than yours.
When we got up to the top, there is
All that.
a little booth, and this is amazing to me. I wish I could remember his name. If it's Samson, I don't remember. But I'm looking through glass, and to this day, they have people who still have that ancient way of copying letter by letter the ancient scripture with, I mean, and it's got to be perfect when you do it. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, no.
But we sat there and watched him do this letter. And this is the typical of what, you might see something like this if you visit an Orthodox Jewish temple where they put the scrolls and they open it. The scrolls are kept to preserve the holiness of the scrolls.
I got that same thing on top.
I don't remember what the significance of that line is. I think it has to do with a historical period that from one period it was here and then they built on top of it, so they wanted to have it. There's the Roman garrison again, way down below.
There's a bird.
Yeah, proof that the birds would come.
That's right.
And they seem pretty trusting. We weren't gonna eat him.
Yeah, you stayed right there. Bizarre.
Yeah.
Water cistern,
Oh, wondered about the water.
so you collect the rainwater if they had any in the rainy seasons.
That didn't take a long time to build.
Oh my gosh, I don't know, yeah. Well, and there's one particular piece, and you can see that now you can walk up the sides now because they've got it made that way. But wait till you see,
Hike. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
the upper terrace, there it is. One of the rich kings decided, I need a swimming pool.
No way.
So on the side of the mountain, carved out a pool. So, yeah, and they didn't have it running. I was hoping we could go take a dip, but can you imagine? I mean, good Lord. So,
Are they sure it was a swimming pool and just not another cistern?
no, well,
That's what I said.
I mean, but it was, my understanding, it was used as a royal bathing in Roman style.
That's
Yeah. The human need for cleanliness, the bathhouse also had a social function. Bathing and the associated physical activities were an important element in Roman social and cultural life to which Herod aspired. This was where the king and his guests met, bathed, and exercised. The sophisticated bathing arrangements, which are reminiscent of a dry sauna in our days, the vivid wall paintings and the colorful stone floors demonstrate the opulence, the high standard of living, the importance that Herod assigned to the bathhouses. Bathing took place in the rooms inside the building, and the bathers exercised in the courtyard, which was surrounded by a roofed colonnade. In the period of the revolt, the bathhouse was adapted to the rulings relating to the bathing and purity of Jewish law. We find evidence of this in 2 ritual baths, mikvahs, and the bench built from drums of the dismantled columns of the courtyard. Now this is coming back to me. I believe this fortress was a Herod construction to start with. But when the Roman siege came, the people knew it was there and they fled
so
to
they
it.
didn't build it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would make sense. Herod was the great
Yeah,
builder of everything, and
yeah.
so. Okay, well, I hope that was
Yeah, that was interesting.
profitable for you in some way. There's another
Yep.
ritual bath. And Pastor Jim playing with the filters. There's original flooring. So they talked about the elaborate designs of the, and this is actually the floor, they believe, of a pool with the drain
Oh,
built in.
yeah.
Self-cleaning.
One of the interior rooms with some remnants of the ancient decorating. Yeah, the wallpaper. Okay, I better quit because if I don't now, I won't. So.
Keep going, let's keep going.
Okay, before we go, I need to please ask about our going forward for this month. And I'll get my calendar up here so I can see it. Okay, so we have, so we can meet for, if we stay on Wednesdays, the Wednesdays that we have this month are the 11th, the 18th, and the 25th.
Another
I
potluck.
actually have to work on it.
Just wait till
So,
No, I don't.
January.
what's your pleasure? Are we ready to do a break, or are we ready for one more week, for 2 more weeks?
I can't come next Wednesday.
How about we break until
Yeah.
after the first?
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, that's kind of what I'm hearing. If some can't be here, that we could meet on New Year's Day.
Jim?
No, the Wednesday after.
James?
We'll be in between.
Kids get here.
On the 12th.
So this is the 11th.
We'll be in both of those.
Are they coming out?
Yeah, they'll be there the first week, so they should be heading out by the 8th. So how about we,
I think
I
as a closure of this session, we should all do a reflection on what we've learned and come and share it on that day.
No, you go.
Or no
Just help yourself.
Okay. All right, well, I will propose that we suspend until January 8th.
Yes.
I think that's good. There's so much going on.
Okay.
Yeah. just send
Well,
it.
thank you for your patience with my foibles here.
Awesome,
I
Jim.
enjoyed it.
It was,
I can now say I have a better
Yeah.
understanding of what it looks like over there.
Yeah?
yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We will do, I still have a little bit left, the Dead Sea.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Because doesn't Masada overlook the Dead Sea?
Yeah, well, it's in the neighborhood. I don't know if it overlooks it or not, but
Okay.
it's that direction, yeah.
Cool.